Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right. I am back. And this afternoon we had pet grief in the house. So you want to check that out. It is up and loaded to my YouTube channel. You can check it out there. And it will be up on all the platforms tonight by midnight, along with this incredible tea time. And tonight, this tea time is very special because I have a hometown girl coming in. She went to school with my sister. That's right, not me, my sister. But we're going to talk about all that good stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about hers tonight. We're going to talk about some art. We're going to talk about grief. We're going to talk about all of that good stuff. But before we get started, we're going to get you over to YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those platforms, and give it a quick like, subscribe, and follow, and then share these tea times out because all of these tea times do make a difference, one tea at a time. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and then we're going to get Carrie M's in the house and we're going to spill some tea. And her tea tonight is, where is it? Transform, empower, and art. That's the tea we're serving. We're not serving a beverage, we're serving real life tea in the house. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guest viewers and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision for these that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including, but not limited to, trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutic advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in the comment on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join us and with the conversation with an open heart. And if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little bit about Carrie. Tonight we welcome a powerhouse of creativity, resilience, and community impact. The incredible Carrie M's, not only a guest, but a childhood friend who I had the chance to grow up with, being a good friend of my sister Annie. Carrie is an author, artist, and visionary leader who turns pain into possibilities through the brushstrokes of hope. As the founder of Gateway and Nick's Place in North Bay, she has created a haven for youths to discover their voice, their strength, and the magic of art. Every program she builds plants seeds of leadership, connection, and healing. Her story honors a beloved life lost too soon and transforms that grief into legacy that uplifts countless others. So grab your cup and open your heart. Tonight we explore how creativity becomes courage, how vulnerability becomes empowerment, and how one woman's love can ripple into a movement. Let me get Carrie M's in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, Carrie.
Hey, Liz, how are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I'm great.
So, Carrie, I'm going to get you started with how I do all my tea times. Who was Carrie as a little girl and who is Carrie now?
As a little girl, I was the creative person who felt stifled at times, told that stop dreaming, stop, that's not a realistic goal. That's not but still love to play and build forts and spend time in the woods. I mean, you knew where I lived. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere. What did you do if you didn't have your imagination? But I was the kid that also never quite fit in anywhere. So I was creative. I was also into sports. I was a figure skater. I did everything. And I like to say I did a lot of things, but I didn't do anything exceptionally well. So while I loved everything, it was trying to figure out where I actually fit. It was kind of like that round peg or square peg in a round hole. But in adulthood, I've kind of learned that all of those things kind of come into play now, little bits and pieces of it all. So I've become kind of this mismatch of things that I can draw from over time. So yeah, it's been kind of a journey of a million steps.
We got a little bit of Alexa going on over here in this room, and I'm trying to make it stop. See what I mean? Life, right? Carrie, as you were sharing, you did figure skating, and I didn't remember that until you said it.
I did for a long time, well into adulthood, actually.
Right, and as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. She did do figure skating.
Yep, I did. I did figure skating. We did choir. We did all of those things.
Oh, choir. Choir was another thing we did, right? With Madame McDonald.
Yep. And Suzanne Shop-Off, they still did come into my store all the time.
So, yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much tonight, but I do want to share a little bit on what you did do for many years, because you're doing a transition at the moment, right? So
I am.
If my listeners can just know a little bit about Next Place and how it ran for so many years and what you're looking to do with it, Carrie.
So just a little bit of background is Gateway and Nick's Place started as two separate entities. The first one was an art gallery that was on Main Street. And just a little bit of a background is that, so we were located in a heritage building that we were looking to renovate. But cost was crazy. And we always had a community focus in the gallery. We always wanted to do for others. So we did things at Christmas. We sponsored families as the artists. Anything we could do to get community support for things. One of those things was to allow the MCTV Christmas Telethon one year to come in and film inside the gallery. I remember doing that as a kid back in Hearst, the Christmas telethons we used to sing as choirs and whatnot and have fun with that. So it was kind of a nostalgic thing for me. Unfortunately, when we were doing that, standing outside on the sidewalk outside my store, my 27-year-old nephew, who I had raised from the age of 14, was tragically stabbed a block and a half away. And I unfortunately witnessed it, not knowing that it was him. So we had two separate store locations, one which was semi-empty. We used it for day camps and things. And we thought, you know what, in his memory, when he passed away, in addition to donating organs, we decided to create Nick's Place. Originally, its name was Nick's Place for Us, which was just a place for all kids to fit, all kids who, like me as a child, kind of didn't belong because they had so many different things. And like Nicholas, who kind of didn't have a place to belong, we never wanted another kid to feel that. So we created this space for them. We had homework and art clubs. We had, day camps. We did exchange trips. We've done all kinds of different things. We then needed to renovate our buildings badly. That wasn't going to happen within a cost that we could manage. So we decided to move into our local mall about a year and a half, well, almost 2 years ago. And have the goal of opening a private school eventually. Now, whether, it's kind of, as you said, a transition, so we're not quite sure what the future looks like at this point. We're still doing youth programming. We're still fundraising for that. We just got an OPG grant to do some STEM education programming free for the community. So we're going to be doing that. We just are trying to figure out what that looks like currently. And for now, we're going to use community partners to be fiscally responsible. So we're going to host at the Shrine Club, which is a place that also works with kids in various capacities, or our local library, and do our events there to be able to come back stronger for the youth, but keeping our youth involved and keeping those touch points.
So besides Nick's place, Carrie, what got you into being an advocate and a leader for the youths?
I think my own kids. I had to start very young advocating for my son, who the school system was a place he didn't quite belong, didn't quite fit. Brilliant young man, but didn't learn the same way as other kids did. And frankly was bored stiff. So I had pulled him out of school at an early age and decided to homeschool him, and my daughter soon followed suit. So from an early age, I realized, dealing with my own kids, and then as a figure skating coach for years, and, working with other kids, and my mother ran a daycare. So there were always extra kids in the house. And you learned very quickly that those kids, no two stories are the same. And not all of the stories are good. So I always kind of wanted to be that person for the kids. I still sometimes do church sleepaway camps and different things where I'll go and volunteer. I've been the cook, I've been the nurse, I've been the craft director, everything. And it's just watching those kids grow into taking those leadership roles. Even within my own kids, I watched my daughter go from camper to co-director to director of a youth camp. And different steps that they've taken. She went from a gymnast, so she kind of followed in my steps with the sports, took over competitive gymnastics, retired level whatever, third in Ontario for floor, and then went on to coach. So she's now shaping young people's lives. So just watching that transition and having those kids now bring their kids back to me and know that those kids are okay because of some impact you had on them.
Right. It's leading by example, right? Because you
Exactly.
led a good example. So the children are coming back and leading in their own unique way, but still having that extra special of what Carrie gave them.
Exactly. And it's also recognizing that, the kids learn to recognize that I'm just me. I'm not somebody, I'm not an amazing person. I'm not somebody that's infallible. I'm not somebody that is perfect. I make mistakes. It's owning up to those mistakes. We had a young man volunteering at the center, and that young man would get so upset because they'd made a mistake. And I'd be like, okay, the cash box would be short or something, or they would give, too much change, and they'd be upset thinking I was going to be mad because there were no small change left in the cash box. And you'd be like, okay, but there's a bank around the corner. Like, this is not a big,
There's a solution.
right? Teaching them stuff like that. Teaching them that even when they make the really big mistakes, that you're approachable, and we've had a few of those, but then we've had the success stories of, the kids that we never thought would graduate, and being able to then go to their graduations, and things like that, and having that impact on them, and then seeing where they end up. That's just beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about stories, right? Is you don't think your story is going to impact someone's life, but it does. It
does.
Hope, right? And says, you know what? If they can do it, I'm sure I could do it, or I could just up a little bit and be a twisted tea like Miss Liz, So there's always different things that we can do, in different ways. I know, Carrie, when we reconnected, it was because we were just saying before we went live, right? For Annie. And then we reconnected. And when I told my sister, she's like, that's my friend. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, but we grew up in a town where everyone was friends.
Everybody was friends, right? So because we grew up in a northern town, and you're talking about homeschooling. So you homeschool all your children, Carrie?
I homeschooled my two, yes. So my two are now 28 and 26. But I homeschooled them, my son from grade 3 to 8. Well, he actually skipped grade 8 and went into grade 9. And then my daughter from grade 3 to 7 before she went back into school. And there were various reasons for when I put them back in. My daughter was managing a crazy schedule with gymnastics where she was training 24 hours a week. So I needed her to learn before I put her into high school how to juggle that. So she went in a little bit earlier. My son asked to go back, but then we were at a point of he already had grade 9 courses by correspondence and he wasn't even in grade 8. So it was like, where do I put this kid? And that brought on a whole bunch of different challenges because now he's a full year younger than his peers. But he did well. And, my other two, my stepchildren are just 18 and 16. So we're kind of just not quite empty nested yet.
You're getting there, but not yet. Not quite yet.
Getting there.
That kind of gives our ages away, right? Like our kids are in their 20s and 30s, and everyone's like, nah, you can't be having kids that old. Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah. I get it all the time. I
want to go back to Hearst because when I did my research, it said Matisse. Did you actually live in Matisse, not Hearst?
I did. So I was on the pipeline station right between Kapuskasing and Hearst, just past the dinosaurs.
No way.
Yeah. So the dinosaurs.
I think that dinosaur is still there to this day too.
It is. One of them is still there. All the houses that were on the station are gone. I drove through, like I said, when we were talking about a year ago was my last trip, a year and a half. And one of the dinosaurs is still there. The old houses that we lived in have all been moved off the station. But the funny thing is I was talking to a friend. This is back probably 20 years ago now. And she had just moved up there to move in with her fiance. And she's like, so what house was yours? And I'm like, what? You live in Hearst. What are you talking about? She goes, I just wondered if I'm sitting in your old bedroom talking to you. And I'm like, well, that's impossible. And she's like, no, he bought your old house and moved it into town.
Oh,
so she was literally sitting in my old bedroom, just in a different town. But yeah, so they've moved everything off and that station isn't manned anymore. So there's nobody living there. I guess they have a few people that are day employees or whatever, but yeah, so I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Matisse and we drove for everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, anybody that doesn't know where Hearst is and Matisse, look in the map. We're just that little dot on the map. Like it's out there.
That's 6 hours north in North Bay.
Right? So what brought you to North Bay, Carrie?
So when I left Hearst at the end of grade 10, we moved to New Liskeard for a year. And my parents thought that was going to be their retirement home. They bought a nice house on the lake. My father commuted on the weekends and holidays, thinking that was going to be kind of where they'd settle. It was an area they were from. Within a year, the company made internal shuffles and changes that eliminated the need for employees on the station and specifically his job title. And they were doing away with all company housing. So it became a question of where is he going? They moved him to North Bay. And at that point, there's no company housing and they just couldn't float two houses. So they made the choice to sell the one in New Liskeard and bought the one in North Bay that my mom still lives in to this day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I was always wondering, how did she get to North Bay? Like,
I've lived everywhere. I've lived like
I was trying to put in, how did she go from
I did go to college here, but I went to college in Hamilton too. So like, I've been everywhere. I've lived in Thunder Bay, Hearst, North Bay, Windsor, Toronto, Hamilton, you name it.
It's like that song there. I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, we come from like a northern town that was lumberjack, right? So all those little funky songs and all that we grew up on.
They all stick. Log Rollers Waltz.
Well, I want to get into your book because you just released a book called Threads.
I did.
I want to talk about that book and how long it took you to write it and what's the book based on so we can get it out there to the listeners and they can go and grab a copy and all that good stuff.
So it's called Threads, weaving us through struggle and strength. Sorry.
Oh, good. She has a
Um,
book.
I do. I have a copy. I
I
brought a
was
copy
trying to
because
get
I
kids,
knew.
and I was just like, oh.
Yeah, no, I did bring one copy with me. So basically, it's a lot about the last 4 years of my life since Nicholas's death. It's a little bit about overcoming past challenges and traumas and different things. It's a lot about using art and different techniques to help people kind of navigate through the grief and the difficult times. There's a workbook in the back that kind of takes people through, creative journaling or Zentangles or different things. My wife is sitting here Zentangling right now. But it's just a nice, easy read that teaches people that you can endure it and you can rise out of it. You don't have to be stuck there forever. It's not going to be an overnight process. I'm somebody that's been to this point exceptionally resistant to things like therapy and different things. I also didn't realize that what I do is, what I do in my art practices as an artist, because I do consider myself an artist. I think I always was. I just thought that to actually give myself the title, I had to be paid, thousands and thousands for a picture. Because that's what they tell you. You have to, dollar equals success.
Yeah.
But so it's a little bit of a memoir as well. Just talks about some of the kids at the gallery, some of the things that, we've kind of noticed in what they're growing up in. But it's meant to be a reminder to people that they're not alone in it, that there's always somebody to come alongside you, and it could be at the least expected moment. And that the thing you least expect is the thing that will bring you together with someone. It took me, honestly, after I closed the center, I started writing probably in February. It's had a couple of incarnations, a page here, a page there, but never a solid thing. February, March, I kind of sat down and started to really write. And then it was in its printed format, ready to go probably 3 weeks ago. So not very long at all. But it just kind of, there were some life changes I made, and it just kind of happened. It just kind of came. I met my wife, I don't want to say suddenly because that's not accurate, but I met her actually through the center, and I hesitate to, I don't hesitate to say that in a way Nicholas brought us together because of the center and her kids coming to the center. I met her. And she gave me permission to work on myself. She told me that it was okay to take time to work on myself and that I didn't need to run. And in her words, I see you. And I think that's where things changed a little bit for me. Well, they changed a lot because we got married, met, started dating, and were married within 6 months. So it changed fast.
Sometimes it's good that way, right?
It was a dinner table.
You start picking things apart, and then it's just like it doesn't ever happen, right?
You know what? Proposal was a dinner table text, and the wedding had a pizza and a candy bar. How much more me can you get? And her,
right? So Carrie, if you'd like to hold the book up just for the people that are watching the video so they can see it, because I really love the cover of the book. How did you go about picking the colors and the thread and the heart and everything, like putting it all together?
I wanted something. So I do have a graphic design background. It's one of my other things. So I had this thing about Celtic knots for a little while. I was learning some different macrame techniques and different things. And this was one of the knots that came up. So to me, my heart will always part of me never left that hospital room. Part of me will always be with Nick. And when he passed away, because we donated his organs, and it's a really, you know, it's not at all what you see on TV when people donate organs. It doesn't happen that way. And the transplant coordinator gave us these little heart pendants that the inner part said in honor of your gift, and the outer part said in honor, or the inner part said in honor of you, and the other part said in honor of your gift. And the larger part stayed with us, and the smaller part went with him and was actually cremated with him. So to me, the heart stood out. That was part of it. And then I was doing a lot with like Zentangling, and like I was cleaning out the gallery when I was doing the trying to come up with the cover and that, and we were like putting supplies away, so there was ripped paper, and I was like, ripped paper. So it was a mismatch of things. And then watercolor, I have an artist at the gallery who's a watercolorist, who has been instrumental in everything we've done. And so the watercolor paper is sort of her, not that she really knows that, but I've always been kind of envious of the way she can paint, because she's got this whimsical childlike way of painting. So it was kind of a mismatch of different things. But yeah, don't know if we froze.
He's saying a secret.
I'm not sure. So yeah, it's so yeah, it's it kind of ties into the threads, kind of ties into the theme as well. It's just kind of throughout the entire book it talks about threads. It talks about how we're all woven together, and all of our stories tie together. All of our every person that walks through our gallery walks through our door. Every youth has a story to tell. Every person is intertwined with another one, and that thread goes through their lives. And sometimes it'll fray, sometimes it ties together, sometimes you can knit it back together. We used to see darning socks as a way of doing that, or picking up the stitches on a sweater. So even though you lose something over time, you can also gain. And that's a lot of the exercises in the back of the book also talk about that. Like, exercise 6 is about untangling knots. And it's about closing your eyes and thinking of a habit or a ritual that you've developed since your loss. And how does it soothe you, or does it keep you stuck? And then it gives you some exercises to follow. So all of that kind of ties into it. It talks about some of the kids in the gallery. Like there's a thread named The Artist Child. So we've used pseudonyms throughout the entire thing that talk about the kids. And the kids know, they've read their sections. So they had a chance to okay the fact that we were using them. So there was The Artist Child and Shark Boy. Shark Boy is incessant about sharks, loves them to death. And The Artist Child came to us as a youth who was selectively mute. And by the time they had finished a co-op placement with us, there were days where we were, one of the stories in the book was, there were days that they every time they would come in, they would keep talking, and I'd be like, hey, you need to come in. I'd say to a board member, can you please come in, because she won't be quiet, and I'm gonna strangle her because I can't think. But this was a kid that didn't talk when we first met her, and Dad literally dragged her in kicking and screaming the first night that she met us. She's an artist who now sells work and actually just moved out west and is now doing phenomenally well in her new school and looking at college and university. And then it talks about how the threads are woven deeper as well. So yeah, we did a lot of talking about the kids in it.
Well, I got to hear everything you got to say, but I went down the little wormhole of technology, virtual land, right? So that does happen, and I always tell my guests to just keep on talking because Miss Liz is still here, and I can still pick you up. So I got to hear everything you said. I just was not here with the video, but I am back.
That's okay.
In that. So I want to get into some of the questions that were sent in tonight for you, Carrie, and we'll get those answered for my listeners out there. So we have the first question is where Gateways and Nick's Place was born from both love and loss. What inspired you to turn a personal story into legacy or of empowerment for others? We talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the show. So if you just want to quickly get into that, Carrie, and then we'll hop on to the next one.
So I actually, in the beginning, it was, I think I needed that. I needed that place that I could connect to him. And in all honesty, it was a deep connection because his funeral was actually held in that center in our original building. So it was a really close connection, and I actually lived upstairs. So it was kind of the last place that I was sort of with him. And then that hospital room was the last place I was with him that was warm. So I think I needed to carry that on. I've often said at times, I sometimes have a regret that I did put his name on it because he was a kid with challenges as well. He was not perfect. He was a kid that had addiction issues. He was a kid that, we tried to get help for, but this day and age, when you hit 16, there's a gray area. And we couldn't do it. By the time we realized there were issues, it was too late. We tried, but that alone brought a lot of negative feedback from people. Well, why are you creating something in this kid's memory? And why are you raising money for this when you could be raising money to do this, this, and this? And, we kind of had to sit back for a while and go, do we take his name off of it? And then to me, it just wouldn't be what it is without that. So it just kind of stayed. And, we did step back a little bit. There's a pair of shoes that hangs when we have the physical space. There's I'll tell a little bit of a story. The last conversation that I had with my nephew, he had been in an altercation and brought to my mother's house by the local police. And there was a broken kid sitting on my mother's front steps. And my 80-year-old mother didn't know what to do. And he'd been brought home by the police. They brought him home without shoes. I didn't have shoes that would fit him, other than an old beaten up pair of Birkenstock sandals. That my dog had actually gotten a hold of at one point, or somebody's dog. But anyways, I thought, what do I do with, so I offered him these beaten up sandals and he wouldn't take them. He had that much pride that he would not take them. But here's this kid sitting on the front steps of his grandmother's house threatening to end his life because he's not worth it. And the police actually did take him back to the hospital to get a phone call from somebody 2 hours later saying, didn't they hold Nick? And I was like, well, yeah. And they were like, well, no, we just saw him walking down the street. So he wasn't held. So those shoes have always sat in the front of the gallery in a little glass or plastic case we found. And the first painting I did when I came home from the ICU unit that night was of those shoes. And the words that came out was, I always loved you and I never dreamed time would, or I offered you the shoes off my feet and I never dreamed that time would run out. And those kind of stayed as his story. And it wasn't until about a year ago that I actually wrote the story and put it on a plaque. in a picture frame on that underneath it. So we would get people in to look at the shoes, and we would have to like explain to them what they were and why they were there and what we do. So having those, we had the picture and the shoes and then the story and his picture, and people, we would get the paramedics that worked on him come in. We had, people that worked with him in the shelter programs. We had his old high school friends, the good ones, come in and just melt because they didn't realize why it was Gateway in Nick's place. If they didn't have kids, they didn't know. So that was kind of why it was to help me, but it also helped a lot of the people that were involved that day. Because let's face it, there aren't a lot of murders here, and his was pretty traumatic. But yeah,
Carrie,
so that's kind of why.
Carrie, I'm kind of glad that you kept his name there, because it shows children make mistakes too, right? And they have their struggles and their addictions. If we start erasing everything, what example are we actually setting for the other children that are hurting, right? If we we'll just take the name away and it'll go away.
Yeah.
But keeping the name, I think, is empowering. I think it impacts.
I think it is. It does. And, I kind of, so much of him before he was sent to us, because he was literally put on a bus and we received a phone call saying expect him at 4, and then there was no contact from his maternal side of his family until I called to say he was in the hospital dying. And to do that, I had to track down his maternal side. So when that happened, up until the age of 14, because he didn't talk much, we would get him the odd holiday or whatever, but Mom moved them provinces away. But that time from like 6 to 14 when they moved is a gray area. That was erased. We have no idea what happened in that time. Yeah. I mean, some of it has come out through the courts, but, and I'm sure it'll continue to come out through the courts as we go forward. But, so in a way, I don't want to erase that.
Yeah. Well, I feel that it's important to keep the story there, right? Because if we started erasing things from the story, what is the story actually? Yeah. We started erasing the story of who we are or what journey we had. And you and I have talked many of times just one-on-one, when we're struggling with our mental health. And we come from a society that does say, if you don't have a dollar sign, you're a nobody. We grew up with that in our community. If you didn't make the big names and the big dollars, you were nobody. You were that poor poverty kid. Do not bug that kid. So, and exactly. Today, look at us. Both of us have shown our community that we grew up with that the dollar sign didn't make us.
Exactly.
Our stories made us.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Even to this day, we still stay in contact with our childhood teachers, and they're blown away by what we're doing. And they're like, where's the little quiet Elizabeth? Where's the quiet Carrie? Like, who are these people?
I have one of those childhood teachers to blame for actually opening a gallery in the first place.
Oh, which one would that be?
Susan Shopoff, Mrs. Duquette. She asked me to teach her to paint mandalas, and that was the first workshop I ever held where I charged people to teach something.
There you go. See, our teachers are impacting our lives even years later. Yeah. And that's what I tell my kids. Like, if you have a special teacher, a special coach, or somebody from church that is impact your life, stay connected with them and, and show them that you have overcome stuff.
Exactly.
I want to get into the art because your art is amazing. What are you? You don't need a big dollar sign for the art. Your art is amazing, and you have done amazing stuff with it. What is it about the art that gets you to release your trauma and your pain, Carrie?
I think, a lot of people see it as just paint on a canvas. They don't see the life that goes into it. So, really dark times. I have this one canvas that's a 5 foot by 3 foot canvas. I've been working on it for 7 years. And it'll never be done, but that canvas literally is me. So it's a water scene with rocks and there's lupins and at one point there was a lighthouse, but I've banished that and done something else. But there's probably about 20 layers of paint on this canvas. But the water is an acrylic pour that was actually spread with my breath. The lupins are actually my fingerprints. The background is purples because even though my hair is not right now, it is usually bright purple. So that was a piece of me, was the purple in the backgrounds. The rocks are my fists. So paint with modeling clay on the side of my fists, just pounded into the canvases. So, and every so often when things get really, really rough, I haven't done it in a while, maybe it's about time I do, I dig that out and I just go nuts on it. And it's freeing, sort of. You know, it's that letting go and not, it's almost teaching me I don't have to be perfect, because no picture I ever do will ever be that. I mentioned Zentangle because that's something we've been doing a lot of lately. And no two lines are ever completely symmetrical. I see these gorgeous Zentangle pictures that people are doing online, and then I realize, okay, was that actually done by hand? It's so easy to not. So then you're kind of like looking at yours going, hey, yeah, it's not. And then I look at what it brings out of people. So my art, I'm kind of mixed media. I do anything. I'll try anything. I was doing international art battles for a while, and I traveled to do those. So I've done like Brampton, I've done Montreal, I've done Quebec City, I've done Thunder Bay and different places. And that ties into our youth because we used to bring them to volunteer. But what it also ties into is I would stop en route at some obscure art store somewhere and buy a medium I'd never used before. And international art battles, you have 20 minutes to do a 18 by 26 inch painting in front of a live audience. And then you're voted on. And then you move on, and then you could paint up to 3 times in a night. But I would challenge myself to use something I'd never used before to do a painting in 20 minutes. So, there was one night I did Quebec City. I had bought some modeling paste that I'd never used. And some friends of mine had tragically lost their daughter-in-law about a year after Nicholas. So I've walked probably 5 families through this now. And tragically, Cassie was a wood burner that was gunned down in her home in Caledon at 26. Mm-hmm. And this art battle, for whatever reason, it struck me. And I ended up doing modeling paste, but I used my fingers. I actually finger painted at an art battle with modeling paste for the wings and then the skirt. So just that challenge of like, hey, how can I make this work? At Christmas, I paint leaves. So we go out and we collect maple leaves and I dry them and I paint them, epoxy them for people to put on trees. They stay as ornaments. We use them as a fundraiser for the center. And then just teaching the kids that, you know what? Okay, if you screw up, you cover it up. You don't like it? Okay, cover it up. Just like life, you can change the mistakes you made by what you do next.
I like that you use art as a form of imperfection, because no art is perfect, right? It's how you feel, it's how you're releasing. And I love that you're using your body parts to make these different shapes and feathers and wings and all that, because you're also releasing as well, because you're using your fingers, right? You're using your fists, you're punching into the canvas, so you're releasing as well.
Exactly.
For my listeners out there, I have quite a few artists out there that have been on Tea Time, and I've never heard them say that they've used their body parts as paintbrushes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, a lot of people do. It's funny.
So when you did those challenges that you could do 3 paintings in a night, Carrie, what did that actually show you about yourself?
You know what? It was a challenge that you could do it. So when I was going out and actually competing in them, it was great because it was literally going somewhere new, going up against 12 people you'd never met, all different styles. You had to brave the nerves, and sometimes they got the better of you. But you literally, they say time, you back away. You don't touch it. It's that accurate. The first one I ever did was in North Bay. And I actually, right before it, I finger painted at that one actually, because right before it, the timer went to start, I dropped all of my brushes off the pedestal. So one of my little youth was there with her parent, and she was like, "She's finger painting. Is that allowed?" I could hear her behind me. But, and just the challenge of doing something different and getting out there and pushing yourself against other artists and seeing what they come up with in the same amount of time with the different mediums. Like, who would have thought of doing watercolor on an acrylic paint canvas? The two aren't, usually compatible, but there are ways of doing it. And I've seen some really amazing things. Abstract art is something I envy, but I can't do. I have to have some kind of a roadmap in my head. And so I watch them come out with stuff in 20 minutes and go, huh?
How did you do that?
Exactly. And then, when we were hosting them as an organization, because we used them as a fundraiser. So we had the rights for North Bay, Sudbury, and Thunder Bay for 1.5 years, because it is a nationally or worldwide trademarked event. I would travel, and oftentimes we would have 11 and not 12 painters register. So somebody would have to fill in, or we would have 10 and not, and one in particular, we had a very low number of registrations for here. So we had a bunch of our youth in the audience and a bunch of our youth helping out. And it was so hilarious to see, because I had Jillian, who's the artist I was talking about earlier, painting as well as me in this bar. And we had we rent out the venue. We don't have children in bars. But we're in this venue, and we put ourselves in opposite rounds, because it's round one and then round two, and then the winners go against each other in the finals. So we thought, okay, put me in round one, her in round two. Neither of us have ever both made the finals. So we'll be good. Somebody will host, while I'm painting, she can host one. I'll host two while she paints. And then whoever doesn't make the finals, I'll host three. Well, we both made the finals. So we're sitting there going, okay, who's getting up on stage and hosting this event on mic? And literally 3 of our kids, 13, 15, and 16, got up, took the mic, and hosted in front of 100 people for 25 minutes without even batting an eyelash. And these were kids that you would not have heard speak in public, a couple of months before that. And that's kind of where I seen people come out of their shells. It's not so much about what ends up on the canvas.
It's what you see come out of the shell.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I got some fast round questions here for you. I'm going to just name 3 words at a time, and I want you to tell me what you think. Art, childhood, and writing.
Art, childhood, and writing. Oh my gosh. Nature.
Okay, next one. Colors, textures, or rhymes?
Color.
Why?
Because it can also be texture and rhyme.
Oh, it can unite each other. I like that unit. Event planning, journalism, or fundraising? Which one is easier for you?
Journalism.
Journalism. I would have never thought that. I would have thought fundraising, because you're good at it. And now we have a question that just came in, and it says, does art create a community?
Does art create a community? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why, Carrie?
We have a little community that's grown out of a little center. We've actually got a big community that's grown out of a little center. We go to a school function now for our sons, and we're swarmed by kids and families that know us from the center. It doesn't just create community, it creates family. and it ties people together.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions that came in. Tea, music, or paintbrush? What's your go-to for creative reflection?
Brush.
Really?
Yeah.
See, she's a brush girl, girls. Everyone.
Close one to music, but
Gary, a quote or phrase that keeps you grounded when life gets messy.
okay. This goes back to an old Sarah Jessica Parker quote
Okay.
from when she was a teenager. It's the ultimate secret of life is the sure knowledge of death, for without it, man would not strive to leave his mark upon the earth.
And why does that help you?
Because I think it reminds me that we're only here for a while. But those that come after, they carry it on. They carry that mark forward. So you better make sure it's a good one.
Favorite show you grew up watching?
Danger Bay.
Danger Bay? Is that what you said?
It is.
Oh my God, no, that's giving our ages away.
I had to take my kids to the Vancouver Aquarium when I took them out there so that we could stand in front of the statue. And we had our portrait done.
Oh my goodness. That brings like back memories. Like that brings our ages in now. Nobody pay attention to the age, right? Oh my
You're always
goodness.
going to be older.
I'm going to be older than you by 1 year, I think.
Yeah.
I believe so. I believe you're the same age as Annie. So,
Yeah.
favorite cool spot in Hearst or Northern Ontario that still makes you smile?
I think in Hearst, I'd have to say just down by the river. Walking along. Remember where we used to run for cross country?
Yep.
Down along there, and then further north would be Kekabeka Falls.
Oh, that's a nice area too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
nice. And Carrie, if you could paint your childhood in one color, what would it be and why?
Boy, that's a tough one. My childhood in one color. Probably grays. Not gonna lie.
Ooh. I wouldn't.
It was very up and down, just because that whole not excelling at any one thing and kind of not knowing where you fit often gives you a almost an indifferent, and gray to me is indifferent.
Making me look at colors differently, Carrie.
Sorry.
Now we're gonna go into your favorite color, which is purple. And the word that you gave me for yourself to describe yourself was resilience. So if you could put purple and resilience together to describe your life, how would you do that?
Boy, purple and resilient together to describe my life. That's a tough one. You didn't tell me you were going to make me think.
Well, I have to make you do a little bit of hard work.
You know what? I'm not even sure. My wife's looking at me here.
She's like, oh, she got you there.
She knows you got me because I'm probably turning 50 Shades of Red. Purple and resilient. You know what? I don't know. I think you might have stumped me.
Oh, well, I guess that answer, you'll have to give it to me in a private DM.
Yeah. Purple and resilient.
If I give you a blank canvas, Carrie, and you write the word resilient in purple, what would you put around that?
I would probably put a mandala.
Oh.
In various shades. You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I wasn't expecting an answer at all. It's like, I'm not giving her an answer tonight.
No, I would probably put a mandala around it.
Why?
Because mandalas represent multiple layers,
I like that.
and life is a layer. Life is made of layers.
I like that because, we grew up in a multiple layer community, right?
We did.
Where you either fit in at some point in your life or you fit out or you fit in all the time. Like there was different boxes in our community, right? That,
There were.
if you got your parents got an upgrade in a home, well, then you went into this box. And if your parents lost their home, well, you went into
Right.
this box. It was all about boxes back home.
And where you lived and what area and, oh, you go to that and you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what restaurant you ate at had something to do with our lifestyle.
Kings.
Right?
Whether you went
yeah.
to Kings or the Moonlight.
You know what? I love Moonlight for the jukebox. That was the only thing I liked about
Oh my gosh.
the jukebox. And the shoestrings and gravy. They made the awesome shoestrings and gravy. But the jukebox for Moonlight. Kings, it was the Chinese food with toast. People to this day are like, why do you eat toast with your rice?
You know what? Tyler got in trouble for that. My brother, he asked for Chinese toast at a restaurant in Hamilton, and they looked at him like he was crazy. He was like 6. And they were like, we don't have Chinese toast.
See, these are the little moments and memories of back home that, it made it home. Those were the moments that made it home, right?
It did.
So, Carrie, what plans do you have for the future for yourself?
For myself, I'm taking a little bit of time to recenter, refocus, reground. Just got married less than 6 months ago. So that's, taking a little bit of adjusting to figure out, we're kind of doing all the, we didn't really have the whole dating life and the whole, get to know each other life. So we're getting used to that. And we kind of want to find a little piece of property somewhere and build a semi-tiny house, live a little bit more off the grid. I have aspirations of hopefully opening a private school for kids grade 4 to 8 and then eventually into high school, but that's probably a year to maybe a year and a half, 2 years out. There's a really small window for that each year to apply, so it'll depend where we're at come June. And it may not be. I'm kind of taking some time just to figure out what I want to do for a change. And I don't necessarily have the answers. I want to spend some more time speaking and some more time writing, get back into that more. Like I gave up a lot of my journalism stuff. So I want to learn how to kind of meld that with the art a little bit more, maybe do a more in-depth workbook to go with the book and different things, but just taking some time to just grow as a person, do some work on me, which I've been told is okay now.
And that's why I asked you the question, what you're doing for yourself, right? Because Carrie, we grew up in a community and in an environment that was told, put ourselves last.
We did.
All the time. Take care of everybody else, take care of the family, take care of the community, take care of the school, take care, right? That's all we grew up knowing. That's why I asked you that question. And I'm so glad that you have an amazing wife that is telling you, you know what, Carrie, take time for you. Because Carrie does need to take time for Carrie. And congratulations on the wedding. And I'm big on jumping in, getting married, and then doing the dating thing. Because then if you don't like each other when you're doing the dating, you're too bad. We're already married.
You're stuck.
You're stuck. That was just a bad date. Go home, go to bed, go to sleep, right?
Exactly.
So what final message would you have for all of the listeners out there, and especially for the youths, Carrie?
Just know that, the choices you make today, as much as they may be right or wrong in somebody else's eyes, look at them for you. Look at them through your own lens and decide, make your choices today based on where you want to be tomorrow. And if you ask yourself that question, where do I want to be tomorrow? That's going to be your guiding light. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people that tell you you can't. Because if there's something that you want to do bad enough, there's something that you are meant to do, you're going to find a way to do it, and that voice is going to come out. And that's just, as adults, we tend to take that voice away from kids a lot. and it's time to start giving it back a little bit. It's not all about college and university, and those are great things, and I'm all for higher education, but there's so much more to life. Take some time to experience it while you can. Figure it out as you go, because we don't all figure it out with our first college program or our first job. It's a process. I'm 49 years old and still figuring it out. So yeah, as long as you're a good person with a good moral compass. Yeah, you are 2 years.
I got 2 years on you. Oh no. You're not in the 50s club yet. You're getting there, girl.
Not yet. July.
Well, thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you for having this heartfelt conversation with me. I'm just going to do a closing summary, and then we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to be back for the final 2 tea times. We're having a tea time tomorrow because Miss Liz has a family event, and family comes always first before anything else in my life. So we're having a tea time tomorrow at 7 p.m. and then the last tea time is going to be on Thursday at 3 p.m. for October, and November's lineup has already been released as of yesterday. So check that out. Check out all those guests and all that good stuff. But tonight, I just want to say what a powerful pour tonight, Carrie. Thank you for serving us truth wrapped in creativity and courage. You reminded us that art is more than expression. It is a lifeline, a mirror, a path back to ourselves. Through your journey and the extraordinary work at Gatesway and Nick's Place, you showed us that grief can become growth, loss can become legacy. Youth deserves more than survival. They deserve a chance to rise. To everyone watching, let the lessons of tonight inspire you to create, connect, and keep going. Healing is not a straight line. It is a canvas we paint every day with hope, curiosity, and the willingness to be seen. Until we gather again, keep turning your story into strength one cup at a time. And I'll see everybody tomorrow night at 7 p.m.